Welcome to English Online class. Yes, we are continuing the Ladakh, the most beautiful place in India. Yes, there are so many places which is beautiful, but as I have seen through my eyes, but not really, but in picture, still, it is the most beautiful scenery I have seen in Ladakh. So many things we have read about Ladakh, the source of two rivers, that is Brahmaputra and Sindhu. So they both are going. So the source of the two rivers are the same, but both are going to the another destination. One is the Arabian Sea, another is the Bay of Bengal. So their route is same, but the way of going is different, and destination is also different. They are situated over Ladakh, and we have read about some story about Ladakh. We have read there is also something peaceful idea about mantras and the flags, prayer flags, without which the river would be very angry. And who is blowing these mantras or enchantments to the river? The wind. And that's why in the road, Vikram, who was traveling with his friends, also have seen some of the prayer flags, or it was full of prayer flags in the way of Ladakh. And when they came to know, they were surprised and mesmerized, and also believed the culture of these people. So, having left the Chantang behind, the road entered a range of barren, desolate mountains. Bikram saw boulders everywhere, varying in size from tiny rocks to gigantic ones as large as apartment blocks. It was as if someone who possessed a huge collection of them had decided to dump them on these mountains. Here we're talking about the boulders, means stone boulders, which are in different shape. Some are very small and some are big and so big just like the apartment blocks. And it is somehow this idea came to our author's mind. Then someone had heaped this collection of the boulders there. There were boulders on the mountains, boulders on the road, and boulders leading down to the river. This line is important. So where the boulders are seen in that mountains, so these are the places. Mountains soared above them. Some snow-capped, other bare. Enormous slopes climbed skywards, often covered with a loose, crumbling kind of material which somehow clung to their steeply inclined surface. These were scree slopes, and Vikram soon discovered that they were a regular feature in Ladakh. So obviously, every mountain has its own characteristics. So here in Ladakh, they have found something new. Mountains soared above them, some snow-capped, others bare. Means some were snow-covered and some were without the snow, bare. Means without anything. Enormous slopes climbed skywards. Slope also, it's very common in mountain, often covered with a loose crumbling kind of material which somehow clung to their steeply inclined surface. Steeply inclined, that is going steeply upward, not that angle is a very just close to the right angle. You know that what is right angle? Right angle is 90-degree. Now close to the right angle. And where we walk means in our place. This place is very plain. Here it is just plain area. But there steep is very awkward and it's just going towards the high. These were scree slopes, and Bikram soon discovered that they were a very regular feature in Ladakh. Question can come, which are the very regular feature in Ladakh? Next, in a chameleon-like manner that Bikram had never seen before, the mountains kept changing colors. Oh, the mountains also change colors. In some section, the mountains were brown, and in other they were purple, sometimes they appeared orange and sometimes golden. It was a grand wilderness they drove through, hostile and inhospitable to the extreme, yet magnificent to behold. Sheer mountainsides, wind-swept peaks, boulder-strewn slopes, tones of delicately balanced scree, twisting gorges, a frothing river. The images piled one upon the other, moving Bikram deeply, evoking within him a profound sense of desolation. He is going out of his mind by seeing those beauty. What are the beauty? I'm repeating again. It was the grand wilderness they drove through. Wilderness, yes, it's the touch of the nature and the wild touch of the nature. That's why the word has been used, the wilderness. They drove through style and inhospitable to the extreme. Inhospitable. It's not too caring. It's very risky, but still it's very beautiful. Yet magnificent to hold. Magnificent. That it's attracting your eye. That's a magnet does. That a magnet does, it attracts towards it. So it is attracting your eye. It's magnificent to behold. Sheer mountainsides, means slopes are very, very steep, and then wind-swept peaks, boulder-strewn slopes full of boulders. The slopes that are full of boulders, tones delicately balanced scree, twisting gorges, a frothing river. Frothing river, I told you that fountain, when it's coming from the high side, it's frothing to the bubbles. The images piled one upon the other, moving Bikram deeply, evoking within him a profound sense of desolation. It's desolating his heart by seeing these things, and his mind is totally attracted towards the beauty. I walked all day higher and higher into the mountains. It is strange no longer to be looking at them across the shifting lights of the valley against the brilliant emptiness of the sky, but to be walking in them, at last surrounded by them, traveling in their inner paths. The rocks on the side, the paths, are sprinkled with small blue flowers. A fierce wild green grass grows between the boulders. With every quarter of an hour, the heat increases and the rocks change, growing more and more fantastical wings of cathedrals falling into the rivers below. Large fluted columns with golden moss spilling over from the height. Andrew Harvey writes. So if the question comes that describe the Ladakh through the eyes of Andrew Harvey, so you should write what he has written about Ladakh. Let's read. I walked all the higher and higher into the mountains. Look at that. It is written by Andrew Harvey, that's why it is given in the inverted comma. Strange no longer to be looking at them across the shifting lights of the valley. Shifting lights. Why these are shifting lights? In our plain area, there are no shifting lights. How it could be? Because it only happens in the mountains. How? The mountains, they have been grown in a size, and they have been grown in a way, and from every side they are just stood there. And when the light comes, maybe it's reflecting from one side of the mountain, but the other side is totally shadowy. Maybe it's coming after crossing a mountain which is very small, just after the large mountain. And the next mountain is getting the light, but the small mountain is not getting. So this portion is shadowy. So this is just like the shifting light. And maybe when the light is crossing, then the one side of the mountain is only lighted, but the other side is keeping in dark, but the light is shifting to the another mountain. So there, the rocks on the other sides of the paths are sprinkled with small blue flowers. A fierce wild green grass grows between the boulders. With every quarter of an hour, The heat increases and the rock change growing more and more fantastical. Yes. So as the as the time grows of the daylight, when the sun becomes brighter, then the rocks also becomes brighter and also becomes warm after taking the brightness, the temperature. And sometimes it's colored the white and sometimes orange. So wings of cathedrals falling into the river below. Wings of cathedrals are here. It's showing the height of the mountains and the shadow of these are falling into the river. Large fluted columns with golden moss spilling over from their height. But Ladakh has a habit of springing surprises in what often appear to be the most appealing and dreadful terrain. Most appealing means the appeal is the most beautiful, but it's also dreadful and it's dangerous. Patches of the intense green would appear on barren mountainsides. Patches of intense green. The green patches are there. It's mossy, it's slippery in the mountainsides. The road would round a corner and suddenly Bikram would be confronted with carefully terraced fields, strings of fluttering prayer flags, flat-roofed houses, and stands of poplar trees. The settlements were usually small, often restricted to just 2 or 3 houses. These tiny communities were few and far between, and the only other human presence was that of the Indian army with occasional outposts along the road. So there, who comes regularly? The Indian army. They have their march in this way. They are protecting our country in the border areas and Ladakh in these border areas. So there are very limited settlements, as we have seen here in the writing, and as we are seeing through Bikram's eyes. So what is Bikram telling here? Bikram would be confronted with carefully terraced fields, strings of fluttering prayer flags, flat-roofed houses. Flat-roofed houses. Mostly it is seen that heart-like roofed houses, but these are the flat roofed houses and stands of poplar trees. Poplar trees are there. The settlements were usually small, often restricted to just 2 or 3 houses. Restriction is also there. These tiny communities were few and far between, and the only other human presence was that of the Indian army with occasional outputs along the road. So, in our second session, we have known so many parts of the Ladakh, and we have seen how Andrew Harvey has described the Ladakh. We have seen how the settlements are grown up here and who comes here, the Indian army. So we have seen the beauty and dreadful sides of Ladakh. We have seen the playing of the sunlight from one mountain to another mountain, how the shadow is giving the touch of nature, and it's a playful nature, how the sun, when it's coming from its east side, the one side of the mountain is bright, another side is totally dark, and when it's coming to the part of the end of the day, then the another part is brighter and the previous or the first part is totally dark. So these catches our mind, totally catch our mind and also attract us to go there. Maybe someday we will also go and we'll see that what's the beauty of Ladakh. Take care, bye bye, and read the text carefully and careful about the inner questions.